Did you hear about this? The first ever human-monkey hybrid has been created. And I'm not really sure how I feel about this. My first gut reaction when I saw this article is kind of one of feeling a little sick to my stomach. And my first gut reaction is kind of I'm against it, it's weird, it's wrong, and I really want to know what you think about it because I'm actually just not sure if this is good or bad or what it means or if it's neutral or what. I don't know what the ethics are involved in this. I have no idea if it's okay or not. So I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. But let's read from globalnews.ca. And I want to just say that this actually happened a while back. This is from April 2021. However, I just found out about it now. So I wanted to bring it up and talk about the ethical issues around it and see what you think about it. And so they say, first ever human-monkey hybrid created in chimera embryo experiment. Scientists have successfully combined human and monkey cells into a single living growing embryo in a major and ethically complex breakthrough for organ transplant research. But don't worry, this isn't the real world prequel to a Planet of the Semi-Human Apes, at least not yet. An international team of researchers added human stem cells to macaque monkey embryos and watched as they survived and multiplied as one, according to the findings published in the journal Cell. The scientists effectively created genetic chimeras, a term borrowed from the mythical monster to describe one organism with genes from multiple individuals. Juan Carlos Ispizua Belmonte, a professor at the Salk Institute and co-author of the study, insists that this is not about creating a full-grown chimera with human and animal traits. Our goal is not to generate any new organism or a monster, he told NPR, and we're not doing anything like that. We're trying to understand how cells from different organisms communicate with one another. He adds that the discovery could lead to a better understanding of human biology and diseases, as well as more effective human chimeras involving less similar species. That perhaps could lead to animals being used to grow organs for human transplant. Okay, so this is a really interesting topic because we've transplanted animals' organs into humans before. I think we use some organs from pigs in human transplants. Is that ethical or not? I'm not sure. That's up to you. I think it depends on the circumstance. So we've already been doing that. And another famous example that I referenced in another video this week about mice brains is the kind of growing a human ear on the back of a mouse. And what I don't really understand about this is now we actually have the ability to kind of take your own DNA or your own stem cells and kind of 3D print an organ for you using kind of a structure that they build and then put your own cells around it, and then they can transplant that organ into you. And I hope that's the future so we don't have to use animals just for human organ transplants. I think it would be great if we could just grow your own tissue in a lab and then transplant that into you. And I'm hoping that's the line that we move towards in the future instead of using animals for this. That's what I hope. And I don't understand with all the breakthroughs in that technology why we're still doing this kind of stuff so much. But perhaps that technology is too far in the future and we need those organs now. So I don't really know. But I think it's a really kind of gray area ethically that we use other animals that are kind of perceived as lower than us in order to save human lives. And is that okay? It probably is in some regard. And is it not? It probably isn't in some regard too. So this is complex. I want to know what you think. Again, let me know in the comments because I'm ready to learn about the ethics of this and become a little more clear in my thinking about it because I'm really, really not sure if this is okay or not, to be honest. And in this specific study, it goes on to say that basically 103 chimeras were still alive after day 10. Nearly all had died by day 19, and the rest were destroyed on day 20. So after 20 days, they actually destroyed all these chimeras that were created. We demonstrated that the human stem cells survived and generated additional cells, as would happen normally as primate embryos develop and form layers of cells that eventually lead to all of an animal's organs, Belmonte said. The successful experiment was a major step forward for Belmonte, who has studied this area for decades and who has previously tried to combine human and pig cells in the same manner. The breakthrough is part of a broader effort to see if animals can be used to grow human organs for transplant patients, a goal that others have also chased by trying to splice human DNA into pigs, mice, and sheep. Chinese researchers have also created pig-monkey chimeras with the same end goal in mind. Belmonte says these revelations about cell communication will hopefully make it easier to create chimeras out of more genetically distant species, such as humans and pigs in the future. So maybe it's actually easier to create a chimera with a more similar species to us, and what we learn from this can help us make them with species that are more different from us as well. That's what he's saying. Of course, the breakthrough also opens up a slew of difficult ethical questions. Yeah. My first question is why? Kristen Matthews, a fellow for science and technology at Rice University's Baker Institute, told NPR. I think the public is going to be concerned, and I am as well, that we're just pushing forward with science without having a proper conversation about what we should or should not do. Yeah, that seems to be the case here. Professor Julian Savulescu, the director of the Oxford Uhiro Center for Practical Ethics and co-director of the Wellcome Center for Ethics and Humanities at the University of Oxford, also raised concern about this discovery becoming a slippery slope. These embryos were destroyed at 20 days of development, but it's only a matter of time before human-non-human chimeras are successfully developed, perhaps as a source of organs for humans, he told The Guardian. He added that any fully grown chimera involving human cells would need to be thoroughly assessed to see what its mental capacity is like, especially if it's going to be used for organ transplants. What looks like a non-human animal may be mentally close to a human, he said. We will need new ways to understand animals, their mental lives, and relationships before they're used for human benefit. The embryos in this experiment had not progressed to the point where they were forming body parts or brain cells. Belmonte says the next step is to better understand the communication pathways between cells and to determine which ones are critical for an embryo's development. He adds that he and his team performed ethical consultations and reviews before they made their chimeras, with help from unaffiliated bioethicists. So, I don't know if this exact study is unethical, but where it's leading to definitely could be. And if we develop a chimera animal just for the purposes of human organ transplant, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, if my family member was on an organ donor list and they were going to die without this, then I probably would want that to happen. But in general, I don't know how I feel about animals being used for that. And again, I'm hopeful that the technology we're developing around kind of 3D printing or creating your own tissues in a lab might be the way that we end up, and I think that's a lot better for everyone. And I also feel the same way about lab-grown meat. I don't know if you've seen that video that I posted about that or not, but I also talked about how I'm excited for lab-grown meat for the same reason. If an animal doesn't have to suffer at all or die, and I can still have a fat, juicy New York steak, and by the way, one that's exactly perfect every single time with a lot of delicious marbling, or the way I like it, maybe I can order it to my taste. What's wrong with that? I'm excited for it. I can't wait to eat chicken and beef and all the kind of stuff that I like to eat from a lab instead of the old way that we've been doing it for the rest of human history, where we have to kill an animal and maybe even cause it to suffer, hopefully not, in order to have those meats. And so I'm excited for lab-grown meat, and I'm hoping that we can grow our organs for transplant in a lab as well. You can order it, and the cool thing about that is when they transplant something into you that's already from you, your body has a much less chance of rejecting that organ. So when you have an organ transplanted from a donor, there's a chance that you could reject that organ. Your body will think like, oh, this isn't me, get out of here. But when they transplant something that's created from your own cells, there's an extremely small chance of your body rejecting its own self. So I think that the way of the lab is the future, and I hope that's the way that we're going in both organ transplants and eating meat. And I think then at that point, people who are ethically opposed to eating meat but enjoy it can start eating it again, because we're not actually harming any animals in the production of the meats that we love to eat. And I think that's actually going to be the future, and I'm really hoping it is, and I hope it comes sooner than later. And no matter what happens, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please let me know what you think about the ethics of this in the comments. It makes me a little sick to my stomach, but I'm not 100% sure about it, so I'm curious as to what you think as well. And I would also love to see you in the next video. I post a video like this every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. So go ahead and hit subscribe, enjoy your weekend, and I hope to see you on Monday as well, 7 a.m. Eastern Time.